started, we're going to get started with some sort of a 2-block heart opener. So this practice today is going to be for the torso, a lot of the back lines, but we're also going to stretch through the side ribs and the front body and then the legs. So today's yin practice is going to be for the torso and for the legs. So I'm starting with a 2-block heart opener, but the idea is any sort of chest expansion. So if you don't have blocks, then just use something that works for you. And the way that you'll get started in this, if you're using blocks specifically, is 1 block might be medium, 1 block might be high. If you don't have any props, just take your arms into cactus arms, a little bend in the elbow. And then as you lie back, set your bottom tips of the shoulder blades on the block. Set your head on block 2. Let the arms drape out to the sides, palms open, and the eyes close. So just take a few moments here. Now my legs are bent. You can stay there. If you want to add the extra leg work, you can consider bringing the soles of your feet together into butterfly. So again, lots of options for you. Just do what's working for you. And we're going to be in this first pose for about 4 minutes. I'll set my timer so that we're not worried if I've forgotten about us. That timer will let us know that we've arrived. And so find your pose here. It starts to move the back body into the front body. Close the eyes. Start to settle in. Notice the quality of your breath. Breath is a good indicator of the landscape within, what's happening on the inside. Also notice if the breath is smooth or if it's a little bit rough. Does the breath feel long or short? Do you breathe through the nose or the mouth? Just begin your investigative process. And you don't have to necessarily know the answers. Just observe. And as you're observing the breath, just start to soften. So the eyes close. You may even have an eye pillow or something you can put over the eyes. Nice way to sort of shut out the outside world. The eyes just melt down into their sockets. Feel the jaw unhinge. And the tongue just goes slack in the mouth. And feel the gentle rise and fall of the rib cage. Now we're going to work a lot of the superficial back lines today. So you can sort of think of, if we could draw a line up the whole back of our body from our heels all the way up to the back of the head. We'll do a lot through that section. But we're also going to move into the side ribs and the front ribs. So that work specifically will help the lungs, the heart, your ability to breathe, and really your ability to receive. And so as you're breathing here, just naturally and investigating, observing, notice if your breastbone, if it fully lifts on the breath. What about your collarbones? Do you feel them widening? Do you feel the side ribs, the back ribs moving? Or are there any areas that feel stuck or rigid? Just feel the breath moving in all those dimensions. And we'll take a nice full inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and let it out. Notice gravity take over the body. Again, in through the nose. Open the mouth and let it out. In through the nose. Hold. Sip a bit more breath in through the nose. Sip a bit more breath in. Open the mouth and let it out. And then an inhale through the nose. And an exhale back out. All right, let your breath take on its own pattern. Now we've been here a little while. We only have about 30 seconds left, so this may have come too late for you. But at any time you can make changes. So if you took these butterfly legs and it wasn't comfortable for you, know that at any time you can make changes. You're not sort of stuck to one place. Listen to the body. But if you are in butterfly, when the timer goes off in a moment, use your hands to physically guide the legs together versus using your inner thigh muscles. Okay, so hands to the outer thighs if the legs are in butterfly. Guide the legs together. You can have the feet go wide, the knees fall into one another. And just interlace your fingers or grab elbows, stretch back, yawn, just get a little bit deeper here. And release. Roll to your side. Now we're going to set up something very similar, but it's going to change how we do the next couple of poses. So grab whatever you have in the way of blankets or bolsters or those types of things. And you can put one blanket or even a pillow behind you, just like a pillow. And then take another one, and it's going to go under your mid-back. I'm going to get my sort of comfy blanket for that. This can also be a bolster. I find my bolster is a little too thick. So what I like about blankets is you can control the thickness. And we're going to start in Mountain Brook pose, which is a restorative pose, but we're going to move it into a little bit deeper sidelining pose in a moment. But it'll be similar to that 2-block heart opener. We're just using props. So I'm going to have one prop. You decide the thickness. We'll go thicker sort of on the second round. So for me, I like a little thinner. The arm is going to hang between sort of the pillow surface, and I've got my arms in cactus. Now for me, this blanket is not super thick. It is giving a little bit of a heart accentuation, but my hips are not off the floor. If your hips are off the floor, you may need to have something under your hips or not go as high. And then the legs are the same. Knees bent, feels nice on the back. Or if you want to continue with the butterfly legs, you can do that. You can always prop underneath the knees. So find your version of Mountain Brook pose. I'm going to set our timer for 3 minutes. I use this app called Insight Timer, so that's our bell that we have. And in this posture, arms can be straight. I like the cactus arms. Remember, this thickness under the back can be any thickness you'd like, so just take care of you. And if your props are not working for you, maybe you don't have the right ones or you're feeling uncomfortable, it's more about target area and less about specific pose. So anything that's opening up the heart, this could be Sphinx, this could be continuation on your 2 blocks, it could be a bolster underneath you. So get creative if what you have is not working for you. Find something that is. And then just close the eyes again. Bring your focus inward. Notice how you feel. I don't know if you have noticed sometimes in a flow practice, let's say you're doing a lot of back bends, maybe some bridges or up dogs or Urdhva Dhanurasana. You may come out of the pose and feel your heart pumping quite a bit. You may notice that it's increased that blood pressure for just a moment. And so even in these poses, even if it seems slight, if you find that it's a little bit too vulnerable, a little bit too pounding in your chest, then just change orientation. Flip it over, change the pose. And otherwise, we'll take a few breaths here, just really settling into our space. We've got about 10 breaths left. Let's see if we can count those breaths. Kind of like we're counting sheep, not to fall asleep, but to use it as a meditation. Can you get to all 10 breaths without getting distracted? If there is a distraction, what is it? Is it thought, sensation, sound? As you deepen the breath, what you might notice is a little gurgling or movement or sound from the organs as the diaphragm gives those organs a nice massage. Okay, about 3 minutes, went super fast. So take your hands to your outer knees if you're in butterfly. Guide the knees together. So we're going to keep the same setup, but we're just going to turn onto our left side, or whichever direction makes sense for you to see this. So I'm going to do the same thing. I have my arms sort of in between both blankets or whatever the setup is. You could have nothing underneath you, but we want to have a little bit of a side body stretch. If your low back is feeling uncomfortable, put another blanket or pillow between your knees, and then take that top arm, for me it's the right, and just send it over the body to get more into your side body. So I've done this before with a bolster underneath my side body. Again, for me, it was just too extreme. So change this as you need. I'll start our timer and then I'll give you some options if this is not for you. We're going to stick with our 3 minutes. It's just sort of a nice, happy medium. If you get here and you're feeling like it's just not for you, the props aren't set up well, it's not getting into the side body, you might explore banana asana. So you can walk your feet over to one side and cross the ankles, walk your torso to the same side and grab elbows, and you can get into the side body that way. Choose which one you'd like. The side version of Mountain Brook or Banana Asana. I'm actually going to attempt to make this a little bit thicker for myself and add that second blanket. We'll see how long I last. If you have any shoulder concerns, that top arm over doesn't have to be. You can just rest in front of you. And otherwise, let's move back to our breath. Can you feel the side ribs expanding? And let's try to create an even length between inhale and exhale. So take an inhale through your nose to a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. And exhale out the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 4. Continue on your own. Inhale. And exhale. Continue this cycle on your own. And we have less than a minute in our pose. All right, bring yourself through center. So maybe it's back through Mountain Brook pose, and I've added this extra sort of height, so there's quite a bit more for me. And then I'm going to roll over to my right side. So again, do the same for you, the side version of Mountain Brook, or you're in Banana Asana. So adjust the props as you need. You can always put a prop between the legs if the low back needs it. We'll do our same 3 minutes. Let's see how this side might feel different. Let's see if we can continue that Sama Vritti even ratio breathing. I just picked the number of 4 and 4 for the inhale and exhale, but you might decide you'd like 5 and 5 or 3 and 3. So pick a number for you, equal on both sides. You can maintain to use your breath as a meditation. And we're halfway through this pose. If you become distracted often, especially when we're in our homes, we become distracted by sounds around us. Use those not to get distracted or to feel like it's not keeping you present, but use it as a meditation. Is the sound closer or further? Are there layers of sound? They create an image or memory. Use that sound as your drishti, as your focus. And the last few breaths. Okay, roll onto your back again. Last time, I promise, Mountain Brook. Now, if you're like me, I added extra props, so this is much more extreme, this Mountain Brook. And for me, it's not going to make a lot of sense to have my legs in butterfly. I could, I guess, but this feels a little bit bigger on my back, so I'm going to keep my knees bent. We'll just do sort of an abbreviated pose, just so I don't have to watch it. Let's do 1 minute. Not long because we've done this work. Just a moment to bring balance to the body. Now, in a moment, when we leave this pose, we'll move to Sphinx if you weren't already there. So if Sphinx is not for you or you'd like something else, you can always come back to this pose or you can stay here when we move. Okay, roll to your side unless you felt like staying in that pose, and we'll find our way onto our bellies. If you want, you can move your props up in front. I just like to have mine around in case I need them, they're there. And if you have any low back sensitivity, you can always put a blanket under your belly. So we're moving into Sphinx or your version of moving into the upper back. So you can just place your elbows on the ground or anywhere that it makes sense for you. Be here for 3 minutes, which sometimes is a little extreme in these postures. So if at all you need to lower down, please do. You can always add a blanket under the elbows, or if you have a bolster, you can add that. So we're stretching these really deep front lines. We already got into them. I'm happier with Sphinx. That really works for me. But some of you I know like to root through the palms and lift higher into Seal. So this is just an option for me and my back. This doesn't usually end up where I want to stay. So we've got 90 seconds left, so you decide. You can stay in your Sphinx or your alternative version if this is not for you. And Sphinx is different here than it would be if we were in a flow class. In a flow class, I'd really have you activate the legs and lift the belly. But Yin is through either tension or compression, we sort of bring moisture into those joints. And so here we have a little bit of compression of the low back vertebrae, as long as that's okay for your spine. And we're getting that tension, that gentle pull on the front line of the front of the spine. We've got 5 breaths left. As the timer goes off, I'm going to have you just shift forward and rest a moment. Just give our bodies a little chance to settle before we move into moving into the opposite direction into some of our forward folds. And then hands by your side body. Lift your navel in, come up hands and knees. And we're going to sit up for sort of a Janu Shavasana type pose. So I'm going to take a blanket behind me in case I want to sit on it. We'll see how I feel. And we're going to straighten the right leg out in front of us. The left knee is going to be bent. If you're like me, it takes my hamstrings a little time to feel like they're warming up. So a lot of times I like to take a second, prop under my knee. I also hyperextend, so this feels better. And actually, I'm not going to do the one under my seat. This feels better. So do what you need so that you're comfortable. And then we're going to shift forward over this front right leg. We're going to stay with the 3 minutes. I think this is a nice happy medium. And you'll start to notice which poses that 3 minutes felt like forever, and which poses that 3 minutes feels like it just breezes by. So I'm adding props here, so as I shift forward, I can just rest my elbows. So we're continuing those superficial back lines, the hamstrings, the muscles, the tissues along the spine. You might even see if you can draw your head down just to release. And stretching hamstrings and spine. If this bent knee, if there's any kind of sensitivity, you can support it, or you can definitely do a pose without that knee bent if you'd rather do something like legs up the wall, or forward fold with both legs straight. And each breath, just feel the body surrendering a little bit more. This is all about giving into gravity. Stressing the joints versus stretching them. We're stressing them in a healthy way so that we build stronger bones, so that we encourage the fluids to move through the tissues. We encourage sort of all that debris to move out. And so it's very much this hydrating, strengthening practice that we're doing. Less than a minute here. You might be moving away those props if you had anything under the knee. And just like back bends can make you feel a little vulnerable, so can forward bends, or folding in on yourself. How is your ability to breathe? Is it comfortable in the belly? All right, now we're going to stay on this leg, but we're going to lift up. And I'm going to take this bent knee and I'm just going to pull it back. So we're moving into the side body again and into the inner thigh. So I have the legs somewhat the same, but have more opened away from the straight leg. And my block is already there, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to bring it up high. Of course, support yourself any way you need. And I'm just going to set my elbow down on this block, or it could be on your thigh, whatever makes sense. Elbow to temple, or hand to temple. And then you can reach the hand up, over, or I like to drape it sometimes just so that I don't have to hold it there. So it's a side body stretch. I'll set our timer. We're still on 3 minutes. And again, it's target area. So for this particular pose, the target is the side body. You could go back to that side lying pose. You could do banana asana. There's shoulder sensitivity. You'll notice here I don't even have the arm over yet, and I'm feeling plenty of stretch in the side body. If that's just not for you, stay with something like Janu Shavasana, your legs up the wall. I'm fascinated with these side body poses. We do so much where it's sort of front and back body, left and right, but oftentimes the side body gets really forgotten. And I find that actually it can be quite intense to be in these postures for the full 3 minutes. So if you need to slowly come out early, you need to take breaks, go for it. And otherwise, we're almost halfway there. Close your eyes and start to investigate the sensation. Sometimes I talk about good pain versus bad pain. I don't really like the word pain, but it's something we can identify with, at least at first. But let's think of it more like good sensation, bad sensation. So we might be feeling something. What's our tolerance for discomfort? Is that something we can breathe into? Can we create some space around it? Or do we almost push against it and make it more uncomfortable? And sometimes backing off is going deeper, so it may make sense to lift a little bit out of it in order to drop in deeper. Less than a minute to go. When the timer goes off, or if you come out early, do it slow. We don't often stretch the side body, so no racing to come out. Just take your time. You can always start with the arm first. And take your time as the timer goes off. Move as slow as you can to center. Take your time. When you get to center, maybe just close the eyes. Take a rebound. And notice sort of all the tissues moving back into the place. Is there a place of warmth or circulation? Where did we just hydrate the tissues? Okay, we'll do those two poses on the other side. I'm going to turn just so I think it'll be easier for you to see me. But Janu Shavasana, the left leg is the straight leg. Add props if you'd like. We're sticking with that 3 minutes. So again, see what your perception is. Does that feel like a really long time, a short time? Target area for this pose, if you need to make changes, is stretching hamstrings and the superficial lines of the back body. Sometimes I get into discussions with students on whether real yin uses props or not. And I find that real bodies need all kinds of things. And so oftentimes it'd be nice, maybe, if we didn't use props, but sometimes it's the props that help us to get more deep into the pose. They make us more advanced. So get creative. Whatever you have around you, use it to help you get into gravity, to help you sink in. We've got 90 seconds left for in that last half of the pose. Less than a minute to go. We'll call it maybe 8 or 9 breaths now if you want to count your breath. All right, come out slowly. If you've had props, I probably could have removed mine. It was feeling good to leave that. So keep the legs straight. Open up the bent knee so you're more sort of facing away from it. This could even be my pose, honestly. And then just start to sideline. Elbow down. If you don't have a prop, it can rest on your thigh, even hand on the ground. We'll continue with our I was going to say 7 minutes, our 3 minutes. Not to fear. And just move into your pose as you're comfortable. Have you gotten a picture yet, a story of your body? Has it always been one side today that feels like it needs that extra attention? Or does it sort of zigzag? Does it change through the pose? Breathe into this side. What's the experience in the ribs? You can think of the side body as that in between, that sort of pause. We oftentimes talk about the front body maybe moving towards the future, the back body moving to the past. And so our side body could be what's in between, whether it be the present or the pause. That moment that's not quite defined. Breathe into the side body. What is your experience? Do you feel it more in the back body, more in the past, more in the front body in the future? Or is this experience just here and now? We've got a little bit more than a minute left. A few more breaths. Okay, so start with the arm first, and then move slow. Sit up slowly. You can feel that moving through the whole body, so we're in no rush. Close the eyes, take a rebound. And all the cells, the tissues settle again. And then it's nice to find some balance. And so we'll take a wide butterfly. So soles of the feet together, but your feet are going to be far away from you. So instead of moving the feet as close to you as you can, move them away from you. Because again, we're going to get into the back lines. I'm probably going to stay as I am, soles of the feet together. You can rest your arms on top of your legs or under your legs. It's also comfortable if you have a couple of blankets or a bolster, or even blocks. You can raise up the feet if you want to get a little bit deeper into this. So we're going to stick with our 3-minute mark. Again, you can always stay longer through my explanations for the next pose. You can always come out early. And just start to move into the center line here. If you prefer a split leg stretch or seated forward fold, legs up the wall, these are all options if there's anything happening in your spine today, especially at your lower back. Take care of you, make those changes if you need. And see if you can trace your experience. Start at the base of your neck. And travel down the spine until you get to that triangular bone at the base of the spine, right between the two pelvis, the two wings of the ilium. And see, where is their experience? And you can feel it under your sit bones, your outer hips. A little less than 90 seconds. And last 5 breaths. All right. So move slow. And then bring yourself to a seat on your feet for a moment. Now make changes if you need. We're going to continue stretching the superficial back line, and we're going to do that with the feet, which may or may not be great for you. So good news, not 3 minutes here, but we will try for a minute, which is still quite challenging. It's a challenging pose to stretch the feet, the toes for a minute. So you may only do a few breaths, you may come out early, but I'll have the timer on just in case. You're going to tuck the toes under, all 10 toes on the mat, heels together, and have a seat. Stretch the plantar fascia. If you have any feet concerns, sensitivities where you don't want to do this, child's pose is a nice option. If you have anything going on in your lower back, child's pose is great. I'm already halfway through, so good job if you're still here. Just got 5 breaths left. See, that wasn't so bad. Go ahead and have a seat back on your feet. Take a moment. And you're going to take a standing forward fold, or this can be your Paschimottanasana, this can be your legs up the wall. So you can just take your feet about hip width, maybe even wider. Have the knees bent enough that your chest drops against the thighs, and you can grab onto your elbows if you'd like, dangling pose. And we'll be here 2 minutes. Again, it's a forward fold, so if it's not dangling pose here, you can do seated forward fold, you can do legs up the wall. This is a really nice way to get traction on the spine. And we're really working that whole back superficial line, so you can really feel that now, maybe for the first time. I'm just holding each elbow in each hand, whatever's making sense for you. I have a nice soft bend in my knees, so I'm not locking out the legs. And if you are doing dangling pose, you're grabbing the elbows, switch the clasp. So just switch it up. We're halfway through. Head below the heart, very calming to the mind, very restorative. Here, less than 5 breaths. Okay, so if you're at legs up the wall, just heel toe your feet wider, bend your knees, and find Malasana at the wall. If you're standing, take your feet as wide as the mat, turn your toes out, and you can find a squat here, Malasana. I'll start our timer and then I'll give some options. So you can sit in this Malasana as you are. You can always sit on a prop. You can always put props underneath the heels. But again, it's target area, less about specific pose. So I'm choosing this Malasana, but you might be in a butterfly. You might have legs up the wall in some sort of a butterfly or Malasana. Just start to get into the inner thighs. If you're doing Malasana like I am, you can switch it up, maybe backs of the hands together, stretch the wrists, or dropping your ear to your shoulder. You can get into the neck. If you could imagine sort of the inner wrappings of the body, that fascia, kind of like a spider web. It'll tug and pull on one end, it'll tug and pull on another. And that interconnected web is affected in all areas. And switch up the head if you were dropping it to one side, try the other side. About 90 seconds left, halfway there. You can also do chin to chest, continuing that back line. All right, we're coming up on our last 5 breaths. And we're going to continue this line of work, so to speak. So we're going to continue with the inner thighs. I'm going to actually move this in a moment to frog, which may or may not be comfortable for you. So again, the target is the inner thighs. You could stay as we are. You could do a version of butterfly. You can move into frog with me in just a moment. Child's pose is also a nice option. Okay, so I'm going to take a blanket and put it on my mat. And I want my blanket to be wider than my mat because my knees are probably going to be about the same distance as they are now. So I'm going to bring my knees onto my blanket. Find my center here a little bit. More ways than one. And as my knees go wide, everyone's different. So this could just be a wide knee child's pose. Listen to your body to decide. But I'm going to see if I can shift a little forward. I'm going to take my knees a little wider, and then feet could be together or wide. You're really just exploring for you. You could have a bolster, set of blankets under the belly, whatever you'd like. But our target area is inner thighs. Now we're sticking with our 3 minutes, but I have a hunch this may feel like the longest 3 minutes of the whole round. Use your breath. Notice your experience. So some of us by this point have really been able to drop into the experience. Even if you're not, sometimes we do a few poses, we feel good, and then we feel distracted for the rest. So whatever you're doing, whether you feel like you're getting more into the poses, body and mind, or whether they're staying superficial, both are fine. Just go with the flow. Meet yourself where you are. We're halfway through this pose. Obviously, don't stay here if it's bothering the knees or if you have a low back disc herniation. If this is bothering you, make a change. And otherwise, we'll be here about another 60 seconds. And then we'll take our final stretch. You have to pay attention. Sometimes I just say anything. When the timer goes off in 30 seconds, you'll be tempted to move fast, but go real slow. We're going to move on to our belly as slow as you can go. So if you come out early, same thing, move slow. All right. So begin your journey onto your belly. Go as slow as you can. You might just shift forward, bring the legs back. Just want to make sure we're not straining the groin in any way. A moment just to pause, close the eyes. You may really feel that circulation down the legs or into the pelvis. All right. And let's find our final stretch. So we've arrived. So maybe you have a strap or a towel or something that you'd like to use. We're going to make our way slowly onto our back. So take your time. If there's any movements you'd like to make you comfortable. I seem to have lost my strap, so that's okay. We don't need it. I'll do without. All right, so come to your back and bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice hug. Just rock a little side to side. Hold on to the right leg, lower the left leg down. And then take a strap either over the right foot or just hold the right leg as I am. So just getting into the hamstrings, but allowing the back body to relax. We'll be here about a minute and a half, not quite as long as the other postures. We'll be here a minute. There we go. There's my strap. Maybe here you close the eyes, really let gravity take over. What's your reason for being here today? So sometimes they're conscious reasons. We need something, whether it be creating some length in the tissues or some space in the mind. A lot of times they're unconscious. We sort of just arrive at this place on our mat. And so they're both great. Just acknowledge your ability to be here, whether that was a conscious or subconscious reason. Put your straps into your right hand, open to the right. And I'm a huge fan of propping up the hip, just because I feel like we can overstretch and we're Sort of winding down now, so maybe a prop under the right hip, open to the side. We'll stick with that minute. Just observe, notice how the back body feels. You might really be able to give into gravity now. In the beginning, we might have felt that little bit of a lift, a resistance to letting go. Come to center. Switch hands, cross it over. Twists are really great to neutralize the spine again. So if you're feeling any tension, this is a really great pose to end with. We'll just finish these on the second side in a moment. We'll be on our way to Shavasana. If the straight leg feels too much, feel free to bend the knee. I'll make this any version of a twist you'd like. Alright, come to center. Release your right leg down for just a moment. Close the eyes. Mini Shavasana. Don't worry, we'll do side two. But feel sort of how lopsided that is. I don't know about you, but I'm like leaning over to the right. The one leg feels longer. I have much more sort of freedom of lines of energy on that side. So let's go ahead and complete it and do side two. Left leg to the ceiling. Give yourself a stretch. And I love that last pose and sort of demonstrating how uneven we feel. Most of the things we do besides yoga are very asymmetrical. So we often have a power side. We're doing things with one leg, one hand, one side all the time. And we don't realize how it really creates this imbalance in the body. And so when we're moving slow enough like these postures, we can really feel it. We can notice it. You might even start to change it, those sides that feel different, maybe stay longer through the explanation. Maybe you give yourself an extra few breaths in those poses. Open to the left. Come to center, and we'll finish by crossing the leg over. Take your final twist. Oh, nice, good pops. All right. So start to set yourself up for Shavasana. This can be legs up the wall, depending on your setup and what's comfortable for you. You can always take your props and set them up if you'd like. Kind of a makeshift bolster. We'll be in this final pose for 3 minutes. Just letting the benefits of our practice soak in. So find your final pose, whatever that looks like for you. Close the eyes. And just connect to the breath again. Feel the weight of the body surrender. You've arrived. Shavasana. Start to move fingers and toes. Reach the arms overhead. I always encourage a yawn. Bend your knees, make your way onto your side. And then the strength of your arms press you upright to seated. Hands to your heart in gratitude for your ability to breathe and be in this space today. Lift your chest, bow your head. Namaste.